We have less than 100 days until you make one of the most important decisions in your lifetime. Who should you elect into the United States House of Representatives and the United States Senate? As well, there may be some governor positions you have to decide. Now, you might feel and even been told your vote doesn't count. You may have believed, based on media and podcasters' review of the polls, that it's already a foregone conclusion. Well, I'm here to tell you nothing is for certain until the last legal vote is counted. We saw that in the last election. The one thing that equalizes all legal adults in the United States is your vote. Each of your votes, irrespective of your party, sex, race, age, gender, sexual preference, education, financial status, or any other category of classification, is equally important to the election. The question is, will you use that power wisely? We already know what it feels like to put our trust in someone who asks us to vote for them and then have them lie to us and fail to deliver what they promise. How do we prevent this from happening again? We do it by understanding the single most important expectation of character that we expect out of every elected official: trust. How can we trust a person running for political office? There's no question that many feel like they were betrayed when we voted for Donald Trump and the majority of the Republican Party. As someone who has consulted and built relationships between leaders and those that follow a leader, there is one thing that regulates trust. Let me begin by educating you about trust first and what the biggest factor is that regulates trust. The factor that regulates trust, like your body regulates your perfect body temperature degree, which is 98.6, is when someone has more capability and authority to do you more harm than you can do them. We see this every day in many facets of our life. When somebody can make us do something we don't agree with because they control our security and safety, we don't put a lot of trust in them. Maybe that's controlling our livelihood through wages, or maybe they have more weapons and guns and an army to reinforce what they say by arresting you, throwing you into jail, or deporting you to a foreign country where they're going to abuse you. When you have someone who leads you using coercive threats backed up by legitimate power to execute the orders to control and manipulate you through fear, you don't tend to trust that person. Harm is unbalanced in many cases in favor of leadership. When harm is unbalanced, you see coercion, corruption, fear, anger, and abuse, and other adjectives that favor one party over another. Some people like this authoritarian and controlling leadership because it provides some consistency, and those who favor this feel they will be treated decently if they just obey. But we have seen this authoritarian leadership in too many other countries. People become disillusioned when the leaders of fascist countries abuse the population, degrade them, and control them through fear and lies. Lies that people know are lies because they can see the plain facts daily and recognize the lies, but now are fearful of leadership's control. What is disheartening and often confusing to people is they elected these people to office based on the hope they weren't telling lies. The vast majority of Americans detest that type of rule. Yet here we are at a crossroads on how to deal with such leadership in large numbers in our country. Now, I'm here to tell you that the primary reason these lies were believable was because the politicians were charismatic speakers. and knew what the people needed and wanted, but also knew they were never going to deliver the people what they hoped for and needed. Rather, they were going to take advantage of the protected time in office to enrich themselves and try to control the people through continued lies and fear. This election year, that fear is a threat of communism. Although there's no evidence of communism, the politicians in power know they didn't deliver what the people said they needed: higher wages, better and less expensive health care, lower food costs, lower rent, clean air, and a safe environment. So they must manufacture a false threat and make it appear real through the mass media and podcasting and other forms of mass communication like rallies and speeches. Because people have not been trained in interpersonal communication, they are often deceived by the smooth, charismatic leaders who are threatening doomsday for all Americans because of communism. They still continue to spread the lies that communism will destroy our freedom, increase food costs, threaten the American dream of owning your own home, indoctrinating our children, and threatening your religious choices. The very same thing today's politicians are not delivering to Americans. So this time, you have another chance to correct your mistakes. You have a choice to vote for someone else into office. There are those that say you should only vote Trump and all Republicans out of office. Just stop the fascist regime from regaining more strength. That would be a horrible misuse of your vote. It would not necessarily ensure that your needs will be provided to you with a full House and Senate filled with Democrats. So what should you do? How do you know what to do? Well, I'd like to focus you on electing someone you can trust, who will provide the things that all Americans, red or blue, need and can agree are important to all citizens. Just those things we agree on: less expensive housing and rent, lower food costs, lower fuel costs, more reliable public transportation, better health care at no cost like many other democracies. If we solve these issues, we more than likely can find a consensus on how to deal with more difficult issues like immigration, judicial reform, fair voting laws that make it easy for everyone to vote. Why? Because we would be able to say those basic needs we all agreed upon were satisfied, and we can see that those other issues are not having the most significant impact on our basic livelihood. So, let me help you in this video learn how to determine the candidate you vote for is trustworthy of your vote. We already know that when the ability to harm is balanced, trust is more predominant in our lifestyle. If you think back over people you have known who you trust, those that you didn't fear, rather enjoyed being around, or leading you most likely, you can express the behaviors that you recognized in that person's actions relative to you and others. In my research on how to build trust through the use of effective interpersonal communication, I discovered how important effective interpersonal communication was to leaders in building a strong connection that led to a trusting relationship. A relationship where people had as much sway and influence over the leader's job as the leader had over the employee's job. This led to an open and transparent communication system where people could speak their minds and feel safe and secure in doing so. This created a more innovative environment and a more satisfying work culture. You all have worked in one of those places and for that type of boss before. Think of your role as a voter and what it is to ensure you to find the most trustworthy representative who is focused on the concerns of the people. How would I know that person when I saw them? You have to be careful not to rely too much on liking the person. We saw this with the main candidate for Senate. We, in fact, can use that as a means to test what we as voters need to be doing. I want you to stay focused on trust. We will look at some of the communication factors that can help you determine whether your candidate is trustworthy. So let's get started with that. First, I want you to think your role. I want you to think about what your role is, the role of the representative also, who we send to office. Not only do we select them, we pay their salary with our taxes. Today's paradigm of senator is that they are all knowing and understand what we, the people, should have, even if it wasn't what we expressed to them. We treat them like royalty when they visit our community. They kiss our children, like kings and queens used to in Europe and still do today. So you have to change how you view these people. Your vote should be as the person hiring these people. A person that hires someone is the boss, not the employee. We must take on the leadership role and provide our representatives what we want them to do in order to achieve what we need. We have had this backwards for decades. So now you are the boss and you're going to hire the representative to provide you, being your district or the community as a whole. You have to start interacting with the rest of the community and aggregate the needs the whole district needs. If there are barriers that cause conflict, then don't select that topic to evaluate your representative performance. They can use that to divide you and turn yourself against each other, collect their large salary, and virtually do nothing. If you as a community of districts unite behind regulating landlords to reduce rent costs and lower home costs, then everyone can get together on that, like Congress did in a bipartisan bill they passed this year without Trump's signature. Once you have these needs as someone looking to hire their representatives, you need to know something about this person. Demand a credit check and a criminal background on all your candidates you will be considering for the role. Look for the obvious things like a felony record or court cases that have been filed against the candidate in the past. Then you can also look at the candidate's domestic life. Is there domestic violence in their history, sort of like the main senator? What are their values and belief systems? Do those values and belief systems align with what we look for in good character? Then look for competence. Does the candidate have a background in government? Were they a mayor or a state senator or a representative? Or were they a doctor, lawyer, or businessman? Even successful businessmen may not make good representatives because running a company is not the same as running a government. Do they have a record? Just voting straight party on bills, or do they cross over on bills that make sense for everyone? How many bipartisan bills did they vote versus just party bills? Review their voting record. Do they have a feel for the problems the community faces every day? What are the plans to improve your life? Take time to ask questions that focus on the agreed upon common needs of the community and not the things we are always fighting about. Now, from an interpersonal communication perspective, you want to make sure you don't listen to a single ad done by any candidates. Force your candidates to come to small group meetings, several different ones in your local community, like at the coffee shop. Make them come on the road and talk face to face with the people who they want to vote for them. And then share what you learned with the rest of the community. Interact as a community. Ask them the follow-up questions, like what and how questions that will provide for your needs, and actively listen to what they say. Don't argue the point. You won't change their mind on the spot, but you may change your vote. Don't just listen and vote based on what they said. See if their actions to back up what they said are available. Finally, meet your neighbors, friends, families, and associates over coffee. Debate differences in those meetings, not with the representatives. Make sure your arguments are evidence based arguments. Now, lastly, don't be intimidated by anyone standing with a weapon at the polls. This is a well worn intimidation tactic that dictators use to frighten people away from elections. I've seen it in many other countries. Where available, request an absentee ballot and then properly complete it and deliver it to the right drop box and smile at the person with the gun and thank them for protecting your right to deposit your mail in ballot. If you can't or won't do the above recommendations, your safest bet to a secure democratic government free of communism is to vote straight Democratic ticket. Don't try to rationalize your vote this year. Then take the time between this election and 2028 to put into place the actions I've mentioned in this video. You should use trust as a guideline to evaluate your candidates. Their interpersonal side should show empathy, self-awareness of their emotions during their discussions and the emotions of others. They should show empathy. They should speak with a sense of compassion. From the communication side, you should look for their clarity of their message, something you don't see in Trump's news conferences or speeches today. You should look for congruity of their message. Do their facial features and gestures align with their words they are saying? Do they come to meet with you frequently or rely on ads and podcasts to deliver their message? But you don't get to ask questions that way. Do they respond timely to your inquiries? Most likely the answer to that is never for many people. Now, I could conduct an all-day seminar on how to improve the selection of your candidates. If you take this advice and actually apply it, you will have 100 times more information than most people use to make a valuable decision like your vote. Change your attitude about who is in control. Do not lose your temper. Control your emotions. Prepare clear questions, then listen carefully to the answers. Don't judge or debate. Simply continue to ask probing questions. Make sure your candidate has the character and behaviors to represent your needs and get what you need. Go vote. I'll see you at the polls.